Good morning, good afternoon, whatever it is.
All right, appreciate everyone for joining us for Coach Knowles' press conference. We'll do a couple questions from Zoom to start, and then we'll open up for questions here in the room. Let's go to Rich Scarcella, and if you could introduce yourself and share the outlet you're with as well, that would be great. Thank you.
Thanks, Greg. Good afternoon, Jim. Rich Scarcella from the Reading Eagle.
Hey, Rich.
How are you?
I'm great.
Good. Jim, you've had obviously tremendous amount of success at Ohio State, and I was wondering why you thought this was the time to leave for another job.
Yeah, I mean, I'm grateful for my time at Ohio State and the opportunity that Coach Day gave me. We had the number one defense in the country. We won a national championship, had great relationships with the players and with Coach Day and the administration, felt supported. You reach a point in your career where you're given opportunities based on past performance. And, like I've said, Penn State, for me, growing up in inner city Philly was the epitome of college football, when I was a kid. And I was never talented enough to make it to Penn State as a player. But, given the opportunity to do it now as a coach, it's really where I want to be to continue my career and bring any expertise that I can, to the organization.
Let's go to Mike Gross with the Lancaster Newspapers. Go ahead, Mike. Mike Gross.
Hi, Jim. Mike Gross from Lancaster Newspapers.
Hi, Mike.
I would ask you to describe your defensive system in ways that go beyond we want to be aggressive, we want to tackle well, we want to be fundamentally sound, all that kind of stuff. Like if somebody who really knows football is watching a Jim Knowles defense on tape, what's he see that sets it apart?
I think if the people who watch it and, the people who report on it, which not trying to butter you guys up, but I mean, the media and everyone nowadays has become so much more knowledgeable, and I appreciate that. I would think the first thing you're going to see is that we're going to have answers. That's the biggest thing to me, is to make sure that we have answers for the players to be able to succeed, to put them in the right positions, right? I mean, we've all watched football, and you can see where there's a gaping hole or a busted coverage, and I never blame the players for that. I always take responsibility. If something happens negatively, the players know that in the game that's my responsibility. So I think, anybody who watches it, you're just going to see that guys are in the right places. They're in the right places, and they're not being exposed, to the opponent offensive coordinator or the opponent quarterback, that there's enough disguise built into the defense so that our opponent doesn't know exactly what we're in. I think that's a big deal. I think that gives our players the best chance to succeed.
One more question from Zoom, Johnny McGonigal.
Hey, Johnny McGonigal with Penn Live. Jim, nice to meet you. Thanks for the
John.
time. How would you describe James Franklin, Pat Kraft during this process of coming to Penn State, and it's almost a recruiting process or the hiring process to get you here?
Incredibly supportive, incredibly welcoming, I've really felt that in just my short time here, that very welcoming,
Recording in progress.
Not not a cliche, but you feel the family, you feel the we are Penn State, and that it means something to everybody, and they just want to win, and they want to win at the highest level, and they're committed to doing whatever it takes, and they've just been really, really welcoming. It's been an easy transition.
All right, we'll go to questions in the room. Let's start over here with Mark and then Bob.
Hey, Jim. Mark Brennan from Lines 247. If I could ask you to follow up on Pat Kraft, how integral was he in getting this done, and what did you learn about him through the entire process?
Yeah, I did not, during the process have that much contact with Pat, because it all really went through Coach Franklin. But I just always got the sense that he was in the background. He was in the background, willing to do whatever it takes to make it happen. And it just always came through Coach Franklin that he has tremendous support from the AD, from the president. You felt the alignment in the conversations that I had with Coach Franklin, but I didn't get to deal with Pat very much in the process.
In the front right here, Mark or Bob.
Jim, Bob Flounders from Penn Live in Harrisburg.
Hey, Bob.
How you doing?
Good.
Hey, so the social media, I think you met with the team and you were talking about, quite proudly about being a Philadelphia guy, a Philly guy. What would you say are kind of the characteristics of being a good Philly guy? And also, how do you think your background from Philadelphia has kind of shaped kind of your football life, helped you?
Yeah. You got to be tough, If you're from Philly, you got to be tough. And you have a thick skin, and you're willing to take coaching, hard coaching. That, like growing up, the guys that I had as coaches, they were all, cops, firemen, maintenance men, and they were hard on you. They were challenging to you. They preached discipline and hard-nosed football, and you have to be. I think growing up in Philly and under those guys, you have to be willing to accept criticism and respond with toughness. Even with the players, I'm always all for a guy that's gonna challenge, the coaching. Like, hey, I want to know why we're doing this, and what's the purpose, and kind of that back and forth that you get growing up there, where you're willing to speak your mind, and you accept it when you make a mistake, but you challenge it if you have a different opinion, and I think you learn not to take things personally. That's a bit. Don't take it personally. My coaches, teachers growing up, they're trying to make you better, and I coach that way. Like, we're in this for you. I knew that they were in it for me. Like, you knew that those guys loved you, and they would love you. There was a mix of that, like tough love, and that's what I got growing up there.
In the front, John.
John Sauber, Senate Daily Times. How you doing, Jim?
Hey.
I spoke to Clayton Carlin, who called you a connector and emphasized how much effort you put into connections with players. Why is that so important in your coaching?
Oh, the players, they have to trust you. They have to know that you care about all their personal situations, and they have to trust that you have their best interest in heart. And you build that, right? That doesn't come right away. And you can't do it all the time by just being their friend all the time. There are times where you have to be the one who's pushing the discipline and holding them accountable. But then once they know that you're accountable, those situations that come up where I make a mistake, or something happens within the defense that's not their fault. I think it's important. It's always been with me, with the players, with accepting responsibility. Like once they see that you're not going to point the finger at them, that you're going to say, hey, that was my fault. I didn't train you correctly again, or they ran a play that we weren't prepared for, or a formation, and I didn't have you ready for that. I think that builds a lot of credibility and a lot of trust. Then, when times get tough, they know that you're going to fix things and you're going to put them in the right positions. You're not just going to say, well, you got to win, you got beat. I don't do that. I want to make sure that they know that I'm going to give them every chance to succeed, and they trust that.
In the front, Audrey.
Hi, Jim. Audrey Snyder with The Athletic. Throughout the interview process, what was James's maybe pitch to you on this job, on this position, and what familiarity, if at all, what kind of relationship did you have with him prior to taking this job?
Yeah, we knew each other. I had tremendous respect for what he's accomplished here and throughout his career. I think coming from Coach Franklin, and it wasn't really a pitch, but it was something we could openly discuss, is that he has built a culture here that has really emphasized defense. I think he's been an offensive guy, so maybe some people look at him like that. But when you look back at his history, he didn't really have to sell it, but we talked about it because they've had really good defense here. Right, they've been through some different coordinators, but they have always had good defense. So that goes into how you structure your practice plan, how you structure your offense in terms of the tempo of the offense, or I've been around situations where all the offense has done is tried to score as fast as they could, and didn't worry about going 3 and out in 30 seconds, and places that can put a defense at a disadvantage. Well, he hasn't structured it like that here. He has made it conducive to be successful on defense. And you can talk about that, but the proof is in the numbers. Like I said, they've had some various coordinators here recently, and guess what? The defense has still always been pretty good.
Front left, Neil.
Hey, Jim. I'm Neil Riddell from the Altoona Mirror, and I'm one of the nitwits.
What's that mean?
That's a compliment. Welcome to State College. I'm just wondering, do you have head coaching aspirations? And the second part is, are you typically coach from the press box, and have they told you where that'll be?
Like where the press box is? Is that what you're saying? Yeah. No, I have one aspiration. I'm at that point in my career where you focus solely on the job at hand, and my aspiration is to help Penn State win the national championship and be the number one defense in the country, and that's really all I'm focused on. And that's not just talk. That's the truth. I don't have any aspirations beyond that. I've gone back and forth, but most recently I'd say I spend most of my time in the press box, and that allows me to get the best vision on the action, and with the iPads now and the communication directly to the players, in the helmet, I can still be very connected, and there's a lot more time to think up there. I've worked hard, I guess, on being emotional and challenging in practice, and coaching with an edge in practice, but in the game, that's not my job, you know. And the best place to be in order to think and remain calm and try to stay a couple plays ahead and a series ahead is in the press box. That's just what I've found for myself, is that, if there's a camera up there on me, hopefully you're not going to see me reacting to a bad play, or even if we get a great play. I really try to stay centered, and my job is to not cheer or react or yell. No one's going to hear me up there anyway, right? Either way. So it's like my job is to think and be composed, and I've just found the press box is the best place to do that.
Over here on the right, Tyler.
Hey, Jim. Tyler Donahue from Lines 24/7. Welcome to State College.
Thank you.
Wanted to ask about a position that's kind of been, I guess, part of your defensive identity, and I think it was called the Leo at one point, Jack more recently, going back to Jason Babin. Speaking with some folks in Columbus, it sounds like they maybe didn't see that position as much as they anticipated when you came to campus a few years ago. Is that a position, do you know what you're going to call it here at Penn State, and do you plan on implementing it perhaps more but like you did earlier in your tenure than you did the last few years in Columbus?
Yeah, that remains to be seen. I mean, we're going to have to dive into, who the players are and what they do well. I made that decision. We experimented with it a little bit early on when I first got to Ohio State, because it was huge for me at Oklahoma State, because we had those kind of players who really fit it, and it was fairly big at Duke also, and going back to way back to Western Michigan when I first started it. But I guess I learned through that whole process that I really need to evaluate first who the players are here and what they do well. And it's not about what I know, it's about what works best for Penn State. So it could be, I guess that would be my answer. And kind of like I always said when I was there, it's always in my head, and I always have that as an answer, but we got to figure out if it fits first here.
Jim, would you mind just telling us the traits that go into that position?
Sure, that's a guy who is who can mix it up, both physically but mentally too. Like a guy who I can talk to one-on-one, and I can say, okay, if you see this, do that. If they line up like this, you go over here. It's that guy who is really like an eraser. Who I can put in different places based on the game plan. I think it's a great package. Particularly if you're undersized, or like I always tell high school coaches, I would run, because you could go and find somebody in the hallway who's not a he's not a DB, he's not a linebacker, he's not a D lineman, but he's just a hell of a football player. It's for those kind of guys who you don't know exactly where they don't fit the standard of any particular position, but they're just guys who are great football players. We all have been around those kind of guys, and you can direct them to do what you want. So it's fun. But we have to see if it fits best here.
Front left, Greg.
Coach Greg Pickle from Blue White Illustrated. To play off of that, what will the next month look like for you in terms of how long it'll take to evaluate everything and then put your plan together for spring practice, while also getting to know the remaining defensive coaches that are here?
Yeah. First of all, shout out to those assistants with Dion and Dex and Terry and Dan, and they've done a great job, because when you can have defense that's upper tier and go through a couple coordinators, that means that the assistants are doing a hell of a job. So shout out to those guys. It's the next month, right? It's literally sitting down step by step. And I'm going to do it differently here than I've probably done it anywhere, in that we're now looking at the things that were done here in the past. I'm learning that, right? Because there has been success. So I don't want to come in and just say, this is what I'm going to do. It's not going to be like that here. Coach Franklin's built a great defensive culture. They've had excellent defense here. So I'm going to look at it step by step to see, what we can retain, and then start to teach the guys, hey, this is how I did this and that, and watch some of my past film. But we are definitely going to go through a process of meshing the two of them, and that's really it's kind of an excruciating process. That's what football. That's what I love to do. You sit there and tell me why he's doing that. Tell me why he's doing this. How did you guys do this? This is how I did it. And but we're going to mesh the two for sure, because we need to be. I need to be fair to the culture that Coach Franklin's already developed, to the assistants, to the players, right? I mean, if you come into the players and say, hey, we're going to keep this, we can call this the same as you guys called it. This is how I did it, but we want as much carryover as possible, so that the transition is as quick as possible.
Back right, T. Frank.
How you doing, Jim? T. Frank Carr, Blue White Illustrated. Kind of going off of that, watching your defense, and you mentioned disguise earlier. It seems like there's not really a beat on what you do from a coverage perspective in terms of lots of different coverages. And
Are you saying that just to be, man, that's good.
Yeah, maybe I'm buttering you up, but I'm genuinely curious about, from that perspective, the mental workload on the secondary and the need to know so many different things. Going into what you just talked about of integrating, how important is it to have that balance to you from a philosophical standpoint to be able to do a little bit of everything?
Yeah, we're already talking about that. Like, I want to be able to do it all. But we're going to go at the pace of the players, right? I mean, always work with the assistants closely on that. Like, hey, I want A to Z, and I want it in by the time spring ball starts. That's not going to happen, And then, the assistants, though, we had that talk today. Hey, you tell me if I start to put in too much that we need to dial back, So you need to get A right, then you go to B, then you need to go A, B, then you go to C, then you go A, B, C. It's just so we got to go at the pace of the players, not at my pace, because I'm not the one making the plays out there.
Second row, left, Mike.
Very good. Very good, Jim. Mike Foreman, StateCollege.com. Given your last couple years at Ohio State and your success against Penn State's offense, how much is X's and O's versus Jimmy's and Joe's? And then at what point and how do you share that, what you've learned with Andy about Penn State's offense?
Yeah, Andy's been great. I mean, I've always had great respect for him, and he and I are talking already and exchanging ideas, and we'll continue that. The best way to make our team better, and you feel that here at Penn State that we are a team. So yeah, we're talking, and we'll talk even more. Jimmy's and Joe's versus X's and O's. I can tell you're an old timer. I haven't heard that one in a while, but I mean that's what people say, right? And to me, it's just a constant balance. You are. I don't ever believe that you can just line guys up and be simple and just say, well, we're just gonna out athlete you. I think that doesn't give your players the best chance for success. But it is a balance, right? It is a balance with how can I do enough that keeps the opponent off balance while also not hindering the athletic ability of the guys to play fast and make plays. So those are the things that keep me up at night. Is like how much can I do before I lock a guy up into thinking too much. And if they're thinking too much, then I haven't done a good job. But we'll just take it step by step.
Back right, Andrew.
Coach, up here on the podium, Andrew Clay, WTAJ and Nittany Nation. You mentioned about growing up in Philadelphia and Penn State was the gold standard. I'm curious, did you come to games? Did you grow up really watching Penn State? Did you have any really relationship with the university as a kid growing up in Philly?
I had a zero relationship, you know. I tell my kids all the time I was a gutter snipe, you know, running around the streets of Philly. But no, so any relationship I had was just all in my mind, you know, kind of a dream. No, you know, I said it earlier. I don't want to repeat myself, but it's the truth, you know. I'm old enough where we had 3 channels. Anybody remember that, where you didn't have a remote, where you had to get up and change the television yourself, and no, you didn't even get to see that. No, I never even dreamt of going to a game. You know, we didn't have that kind of money or there weren't those kind of resources to get the, you know. State College could have been California for all, like when you live in Philly, you know, it's all out there. But yeah, I would watch those Sunday morning programs with Coach Paterno's brother, I think it was, right? He used to do those Sunday morning programs, and you know, due to time constraints, we moved to further action in the third quarter. And but I had these coaches, you know, who loved Penn State, you know, and they would come right from work. So what would they do? They'd roll their pants up, you know. The way Coach Paterno, they'd roll their pants up and come right from work. So, you know, I knew the term linebacker U because of them. You know, there wasn't a me like, you know, so it was always more of just a dream than it was anything that I could have a real relationship with.
Got time for 2 more in the back left, Daniel.
Jim, Daniel Gowan, Lines 24/7, right here.
Oh, there you are.
You mentioned the assistants on staff a little bit ago. What does that do for you to come into a new place where there already is an infrastructure in place and, you know, guys who have been around for a while? How does that affect your process, I guess, of installing this defense?
Yeah, it makes my life a lot easier. Veteran coaches who have been successful, but are also really low ego guys. And I've talked to all of them, and it comes through like, hey, we just want what's best for Penn State, and we want what's best for our players. And, you know, and that allows for a free exchange of ideas, you know, where everybody's free to say what they want and what worked and what didn't and what could make us better. But it makes the whole process a lot easier working with these guys that Coach Franklin has here, and how much they love the school and they love the program, and they just want to do what's best.
Last question in the back there, Mark.
Hi, Jim. Excuse me. My name's Mark Wogenrich from Penn State on SI. I wanted to follow up on your answer about Philadelphia and Penn State and linebacker U and rolling up the pants, that sort of thing. Why is it important for you now to be here to help this Penn State team win a national championship?
I see it as, I mean, so close, right? I think I can help. I think I can be of service. These things, once you get past, you know, maybe being young and thinking you're going to be the head coach of the Green Bay Packers, you know, as you move forward in your career, you really start thinking about how can I be of service? You know, where can I add to a great team and be a part of a great team? And this is the place, because everything here is so close to winning it all, and I'm hopeful that you know, I can help get it there.
All right. Thank you very much, Coach.
Thank you.